running up the score.
Jerry Napoleonello.
This team has been on the clock for 4 months now. Why are we taking this down to the 4-minute mark? You know, you have 10 minutes here. 10 minutes here, but you've had 4 months. The dude's got 1,021 text messages that he hasn't read yet. Did we not notice that?
Kevin Donlin.
Bryce Harper's a great player. He's very, very talented. Aside from last year, but I blame myself. I'm pretty sure I'm the reason for that with fantasy baseball.
That's disgusting.
Wow.
I can't believe that's real. I mean, again, I'm not. I shouldn't hate. I'm not going to be the kind of person that hates.
No,
He is doing enough hating for the both of us.
As a Cowboys fan, the expectations are so high, and it's just, you're dug into the ground by the end of the season.
You're basically like what the Patriots are, but like you try to do it, but you just don't.
No.
Yeah. At least the Jets, you know what I mean? They have excuses.
This is Running Up the Score, your one-stop spot for all things sports. Now here's your hosts, Jerry Napoleonello and Kevin Donlin.
We're going to get into the XFL because, once again, week 2, first of all, they're still around. So that's huge. They did pretty good numbers. Obviously, there was a drop-off, but we kind of expected. We expected a drop-off. It wouldn't be real if it didn't drop off, just because, it took 19 years for it to come back. It was football. The first week, everybody was pumped up about it. So you're going to get those people that just tune in just to check it out. So that inflated the viewership the first week. The second week, you saw there was a drop-off, as I said, but it wasn't that big of a drop-off. So I think, in my eyes, I think this can continue, and I think you're going to continue to now see the viewership kind of stay around the numbers that we got in week 2. But overall, I think, the play on the field is good. Again, it's not, NFL material yet, but it's good. It's fun to watch, and it's football basically in the spring. I know we're not in the spring yet, but it's just football, other than the NFL, and people, will tune in for that. So overall, we had the first game on Saturday between the New York Guardians and the DC Defenders. We had a 2.146 million person viewership, I guess you could say, and that was on ABC. The 5 o'clock game, I think it would be, on Saturday, the Fox game between Tampa Bay and Seattle, went up to 2.3. Sunday, we had Dallas and LA on ABC. That was at 2.3, closer to 2.4. St. Louis and Houston on FS1, the second game on Sunday, was at a 1.3. The XFL beat out every college game over the weekend, college basketball game over the weekend. The one that beat the XFL out was the game between St. Louis and Houston. That was at 1.3, the lowest out of them all. And the basketball game only beat it out by 39,000. So overall, I think that's a success in the XFL's eyes. And like I said, the play on the field was good. I mean, you're seeing Cardale Jones playing very well. PJ Walker. It's a great story for PJ Walker, the quarterback for Houston. Basically, Andrew Luck pushed Oliver Luck to get PJ Walker into this league. So that's because Andrew Luck said, I played with him. He's very good. He just needs a chance. And we're seeing it now. PJ Walker is one of the stars in this league right now through 2 weeks, and most likely the MVP, especially through the 2 weeks, but we're excited to see how the rest of the season goes when it comes down to it. Landry Jones finally hit the field for Dallas Renegades. The Renegades finally pull out a victory. They're 1-1 now, and since bringing Landry Jones back off of the injury that he had that kept him out of week 1, we saw what Dallas can do on offense. You know, they rushed for almost 200 yards, I believe it was. Cameron Artis-Payne, obviously we know that name. He rushed for, I think, 100 yards on 14 rushes. So Dallas is showing why they were the better odds to win the championship, obviously, from nobody really knowing going into week 1, like what exactly we're going to see. The DC Defenders put a whipping on the New York Guardians the first game of week 2, and we had something interesting. And as we've talked about, the biggest thing in the XFL is the full access, and I think Matt Mcgloin had a little bit too much access, and he ran his mouth, and it was interesting. And what do you have to think? What do you have to say about what Matt Mcgloin did on Saturday?
It's tough when things aren't going well in a locker room, and obviously for Matt Mcgloin, it wasn't the most pleasant first half for him. And sometimes as a player, your emotions get the best of you, especially if you're not playing well at all. And again, I guess he thought that maybe the play calling was questionable, and trying to just point the blame, not from under his nose to somebody else's nose. And it's funny, it adds a little drama to the sport. Me personally, I've never been a fan of adding drama to a sport. It's a game. Obviously Matt Mcgloin wasn't in a great mood at that point in time, and it's probably not the best time to interview him. And this is probably the reason why the NFL does this. And when you're a good player and there's a lot expected from you in an important position like the quarterback position, you just don't want to be asked those kind of questions. You don't want to be asked, what went wrong in the first half. That's a job for a coach. A coach speaks for the team, not a quarterback, and that's why. And there's the perfect example as to why you don't allow these players to have interviews mid-game, because the emotions are high. They're the ones out there. They're the ones grinding. They're the ones going out there trying to find a way to win a game. And I know the coach is out there doing it too, but he's supposed to be the one speaking for all of them.
Yeah, I have the clip. I'm going to play the clip of Matt Mcgloin's interview at halftime. But also during the game, like him on the sidelines, they had him mic'd up, saying that this was the worst game he was a part of ever in his career. So that was funny. I just – the reason why I like this kind of stuff, not the drama factor of it, but just overall, like, listening in to what these players have to say to each other or what they're saying and stuff like that. Like, I've always loved the behind-the-scenes part. I've always said one of my dreams is to be in a draft room,
I understand.
Just to know what's going on.
I understand from the fan standpoint where you're coming at. The problem is that there's another standpoint. It's media and the player. Yeah. And I promise you, you might like the backstage stuff, but I promise you the player doesn't. And at the same time, the media will love it too, on the basis that it'll just give them, stories
more
to
stuff.
feed, and all they're looking for are views at that point. That's what media has turned into. But when you're understanding that, I understand you're trying to see the backstage. You want to see every little detail. What is this guy? How are the players interacting with each other? At the same time, they're human beings, and I understand that's the standpoint you're going to see. You're going to be like, wow, these guys are just, they're hanging out, they're joking around. It's just part of being,
Well, yeah, that's why the NFL has a show specifically called NFL Sound Effects, and, because you're hearing what these players are saying.
And that show is heavily edited.
Well, yeah,
aside from ESPN, where they decided to put Sam Darnold on there saying things that I bet you the New York Jets or
they didn't want to hear.
And it was a bad situation, and that's what happens when you get when you try to mix in media with a professional sport. I know it's a big part of it, and it has to be covered by someone so that it gets around the world. But there's a way to do it, and there's a way not to do it. The XFL is showing right now exactly how we really don't want to go about it, just on the basis that, as a fan, you love it. But from every other aspect,
Well, right now, I mean,
it could be a negative thing.
the XFL is looking at it like
It's different.
we need viewership.
Well, yeah, you need.
So
to,
we're
you
gonna
need,
get
you need something different.
we're gonna get people to come in and watch just because of this, this factor. But
Of course, it was the biggest thing. The Matt Mcgloin thing must have been put on repeat on ESPN that night because I might have seen it about 7 or 8 times, the same skit.
Yeah.
So, obviously it was the biggest story in sports that day, which is quite incredible
XFL
considering,
wants.
of course, and that's what they want the publicity, they want the media coverage. I understand them wanting the media coverage. You need it. You need to be able to get out there.
Well, it's funny because Dan Orlovsky, who used to be a Detroit Lions quarterback, now he's on ESPN. He basically said, "I hated that kind of stuff as a player." He's like, because, you're in the moment.
Yep, you're in the zone.
There's a lot of stupid things going through your head, and when you don't have that chance to kind of sit back, take a breath, and just relax, and then, talk regularly, he's like, sometimes that stupid stuff comes out and you look stupid, so.
That's because you're talking with your emotions. You're not actually, you're not speaking, logically.
Yeah.
I guess is probably the best way to put it. It's because your emotions are involved. It happens to everybody. And that's why the NFL tries to keep it away. And I understand the product of again, there's 2 sides to this. The XFL, I can understand their standpoint as to why they would want to go about this. But the NFL will never change this. And the XFL is basically showing them exactly why.
Yeah. So this is the clip that we're talking about with Matt Mcgloin at halftime.
Matt, what does this team need to do on offense to get something going here?
We need to change the whole entire game plan at halftime.
What do you need to change about the game plan? What are you frustrated about?
There's just a lot going on right now. It's embarrassing for us here as an offense, so a lot of things we want to fix and correct.
So
he literally said there's a lot going on here. I mean, again, when he means that by that is, there's a football game going on, but there's a lot of emotions going on the football field. People want to win.
At one point, they even had it mic'd up, the conversation between Kevin Gilbride and Matt Mcgloin, basically talking about, and he was just basically throwing all the players under the bus. So what this just looks really bad on Matt Mcgloin, especially to his teammates. So it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of the season goes for the Guardians. Do I think that he's going to, come back next week and light it up? Light it up might be a little strong when it comes to Matt Mcgloin, but I think he's going to play well. I think this is really something that's not going to bring him back down. And I think he's going to show his teammates that, it was just the heat of the moment. They were getting their, rear ends kicked. And it just, stupid stuff came out, basically.
Well, it's just logical.
Yeah.
If you're losing a game and someone comes up to you and goes, things aren't going so well, I think it would probably take every bone in my body to try to prevent myself from saying, yeah, you think? Like, without being sarcastic or something along the lines of that, just because your emotions are involved. Like you're not winning. Things aren't going the way you're expecting them to. And you basically just, you let your emotions take over, and eventually you're going to say a wrong thing or two. And this Matt Mcgloin thing might be like a little nick compared to what somebody else might say.
Yeah. Well, it's funny, for things not going their way, it's definitely the Vegas sports books when they're putting out for the XFL, that's for sure. Because they've really swung and missed on a lot of things, especially the over-unders. The regular spreads haven't been that bad, but the over-unders have been pretty bad.
Well, it keeps going under.
Yeah. I mean, the first week it started out, almost every game was close to like 52.6 or something like that. And these games have just been so under. Every under hit in the first week. The second week, this past week, I mean, they weren't as high, but they were still high. They were in the 40s, maybe 48 or so. So I'm expecting those to come back down a little bit more. But we had some good games though this week. So I'm getting more and more excited as the weeks go on with the XFL, because I think it's really starting to become something special. And do I think it's going to be, ready to fight the big bad NFL? No. And I think it's going to be a very, very long time before they even can think of doing something like that. But right now, I think they can go small and maybe fight the other big bad college football. That's going to be interesting. Maybe even the CFL. The CFL may it's going to be interesting to see. But Oliver Luck, the president of the XFL, Andrew Luck's father, he was on the Dan Patrick show, and he's been around just talking about the league, obviously, making his rounds. And something that stuck out to me, and I didn't even really think of something like that. I just knew that there was something with the NFL, and we cleared it up because I mentioned it back like 2 weeks ago or something like that, where the XFL and the NFL, there's no relationship. And Oliver Luck says in the interview with Dan Patrick that, they don't have a relationship. They don't have a mutual relationship. They have a respect. The XFL respects the NFL, and the parameters of what the NFL is kind of, the structure for, professional football. But what he said was interesting when it comes to college football, because with the NFL, you have to play 3 years in college to even get into the draft. So with the XFL, Oliver Luck, basically says there's not what they have in the NFL, and I have the clip, and I'm going to play the clip, but just, I just thought there was interesting. So do you want to play the clip and then we'll talk about it, or do you want to talk about it and then we'll play the clip?
Yeah, you can play the clip.
All right. So here's Oliver Luck on the Dan Patrick show, just talking about, what they can expect from the XFL in future years.
We're not subject to the NFL's requirement of 3 years out of high school. That's baked in the CBA. We're not a party to that. We do have the ability to, go and sign a college freshman or a sophomore. There's only one player right now in our league, a guy named Kenny Robinson, who ironically went to my alma mater, West Virginia. He's got college or had college eligibility remaining. He only played 2 years of college ball and then decided that he wanted to play in our league. And he's basically, Dan, using this season, he's playing for Jonathan Hayes in St. Louis. He's using this season as a personal combine, right? Instead of going to the combine and doing the drills, he's said, I need to play. I need to get more tape. I need to play 10 games or 11 games against good competition. And he's doing very well. A lot of scouts anticipate him being a first, second round draft choice. So we haven't really dipped our toe into that particular pond, but we certainly could in the future.
So, like I said, the XFL, is going to look into something like that, and that just kind of brings up an interesting,
I'll tell you my take
topic,
on it.
basically.
I'll tell you my take on it right now. It's quite simple. It's you're trying to take players that are stars in college football as freshmen. A lot of them are. A lot of them are great players right off the bat. If you're a great player, you got the size, even at a young age, which we've seen it plenty of times, you're a good player, and it's known. This guy is a future lottery pick in the NFL. But when it comes down to it, and what the NFL looks for in their players, there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot to becoming an NFL player. You can be the most talented man in the world, but you need to have the right head on your shoulders. I think that, all NFL fans can honestly sit back and tell you that the one name that comes to mind with this is Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown is an incredible talent, but he doesn't have the right mindset to be in the NFL right now. And the problem is that the NFL looks into this in their draft process. And I wouldn't say the NFL as an organization, but as each individual team. And the representatives that they bring from each team, they're looking for something. Yeah, they're looking for the talent. It's on the field. It's on the tape. We know about it already. I want to know how you are as a person. Because there are so many different people out there, and everyone has different kinds of mindsets, and it's understandable. That team is going to look for the gentleman with the mindset that they're looking for. And each team could have different mindsets they're looking for. There's no arguing that. I'm not going to be the one that based, what kind of person is going to get into the NFL as opposed to someone that will not. But what happens is part of being in college football and being a member of these teams, you legitimately go through the process of playing college football, but at the same time, you have a lot of schoolwork. You have a lot of responsibilities. And how you're able to manage those responsibilities is 100% a concept that the NFL and its teams look for in a player. They'll speak to coaches. They want to know, what is this kid like off the field? How is he? Is he a good guy? Is he a troublemaker? There are a lot of people like that. So what happens is, even though the XFL wants to take some of these great players out of college football or maybe take them right out of high school, the problem with that, coming from like just an educated decision from a talented football player, if you're a talented football player right now and you have an option between college football or the XFL, I mean, what are they offering their players right now?
The average is right around 55,000,
and
with
we're
the star players making upwards of 500.
Okay, when $500 is a lot of money.
Yeah,
and
so that's most likely quarterback position.
So not even just that though. Like, I understand an important player, but if you're a big time offensive lineman and you don't want to play your years of college, and maybe the schoolwork is just too much for you, and you want to focus on football, because there are a lot of people that can't do that.
Yeah.
You got to put your focus on your game plan for the game you have this week, because your game this week means everything to you, because this is the future you're looking for. And now you got to manage, your schoolwork on top of it. A lot of players just can't do it. And honestly, there's been reports even going way back that, some of these schools kind of even eased off on some of their great players so that they were eligible to play.
Yeah.
So it becomes like a big part. You're not doing anyone any kind of a favor with that, but, if a player decides to leave and go to the XFL, that mindset will always go into the NFL organizations, all these different teams. Like, why couldn't he finish college? Why did he have to go to the XFL? Does he lack responsibility? Does he, because we need someone to be responsible. I mean, you're representing this organization. You can't be doing, irresponsible things.
My thing when it comes to this and bringing players, and I agree with you, but I feel like also
there'll be a lot in the process. I know there'll be a lot into the process.
You're putting film out there of you playing against other players that have either played in the played in the NFL,
or they're the cream of the crop. Right now.
So I just feel like it's really only going to help the player, in my opinion. I think it sucks now because a lot of these players, especially players that have already retired, the biggest thing is like they're like, thankful that they got a degree, and there's a lot of players out there that are bankrupt. There's a lot of players out there that are doing just as well as they were, while they were playing, so I just, it's interesting, I would say. It'll be fun to see how it plays out. But I think there's some XFL players right now through 2 weeks that will have offers for the NFL. No doubt in my mind.
Well, it's after a full year of playing, and absolutely, and this
but
is
I
what
mean,
the goal
some
of a
players
lot
have
of
already gotten offers. And
well, we'll see what happens as the season progresses, because at the same time, like, there will be a select few that are going to be considered star players, and we'll see how what the turnover is on that at the end of the season, and therefore there'll be a lot more positions for other players to have other opportunities, because there are a lot of players out there that might have had no choice. Again. Sometimes, you want to go to college, you want to go to these big-time colleges, but you don't have a full scholarship. So this is costing you a lot of money to go play. Listen, we all have families, we all have responsibilities, and we got to take care of, the important people in our life. And, so there's a lot of different scenarios that go into the play. So it's not like depicting someone that goes to the XFL will have this negative impact on them. There might be a situation, but it gives players an opportunity. And I think it's good for the XFL.
I think that's the biggest word.
I think coming from a player that has an opportunity to either go to college or, go play football, it really just depends on the mindset and what they're expecting. Football's no guarantee. And we're talking about in every aspect, just on the injury aspect. Like, you could be the greatest of all time. If you have bad knees, there's nothing you can do about it, and you need to always have a fallback plan because a lot of, you can't just base your life on the expectation that you're going to play football professionally.
Yeah, I think the biggest word that you said was opportunity. I think that's what the XFL is going to be giving everybody.
Well, you get the same in college too, though.
Yeah, but you have to play the 3 years.
Of course.
And
therefore risking injury and everything else.
And you're
that
not
goes
getting
along with
paid. At least with the XFL, it may not be a lot of money, but you're getting paid. As the college football scene, you're not getting paid. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out the next couple of years, and if we start to see that more, like if you start to see players, like a perfect example. Now I know he ended up making the NFL, but you have at Oklahoma, you had Adrian Peterson. His backup was Felix Jones. His backup ended up playing for the Dallas Cowboys. But that's at some point where it would be like, you know what? Why not play professionally in the XFL? Have, a lot more of my film seen, or even have more film out there for the NFL to look at, and maybe I'll get a better, draft pick, or, just something like that. So, it's going to be interesting the next couple of years.
I just want to see how the turnaround goes.
Yeah, exactly.
We really need to take a look and see, how these star players of the XFL will come into the NFL, because if they're not making that much of an impact, then we go along from there.
For more Running Up the Score, go follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at RUTS Sports.